Okay, I want to switch gears for a second from looking at all that, what do you call it? Nonfiction criticism and biography and stuff, and look at some novels. This, I think, is my widest bookcase, so maybe each one of these shelves will be 2 videos. This was owned by a local music venue, the Glitter Factory, and bought from them at a yard sale, along with a copy of some Pablo Neruda poems. I remember that venue had a picture of Carl Sagan framed hanging inside. You could always see from where the bands played, so they were a cool literate scene over there. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shelves and a dictionary in 2 volumes. There's a picture of me drawn by a student at Sandia High School. Pretty cool. All right, let's see what we got here. This could be in the fantasy section, but it's probably more literary than the way that genre feels. But this sounds really cool, about a new river appearing in Africa that changes it. The Day of Creation. And it's compared to Heart of Darkness. Hailed as an imaginative tour de force in the tradition of Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness. Hey. Ballard has successfully created a new man. I haven't read a lot of Ballard, but one that I read from him was The Crystal World, which should be so much more common and would be an incredible movie in this age's special effect laden movie scene. I mean, the whole world starts to get crystallized and it becomes beautiful multicolored jewels. And it's beautiful and amazing, but it's like lifeless. So it's kind of scary, but it starts in this one deep jungle. Oh man, that book stayed with me. That book got into my dreams. I had many dreams that were influenced by it. So I will read that. Arthur Miller, The Crucible. I should be more excited about this because it's about Puritan New England, which is a realm I'm very interested in because my ancestors were all over it. Going back to John Clough, coming off of a ship in the 1630s in Charlestown, now Boston. But it dismayed me that he just really plays with the fast and loose with the facts in this. I'm like, he could have written just as good a play without like combining characters and switching stuff. I mean, I don't know. I have a different approach to nonfiction than a lot of people. Some people can get away with that stuff, and I'm like, that's your thing, and that's fine. Annie Dillard, you get a pass, you know. But I don't know. I think this would be stronger without that. I had ancestors involved in both sides of the Salem witch trials. Most of my ancestors signed a letter that their Sunday school teacher, Mary Bradbury, ancestor of Ralph Waldo Emerson and Ray Bradbury, was not a witch. And the whole community of Salisbury smuggled her to Maine until the hysteria around all that died down. Anyway, and then another ancestor, not an ancestor, but the brother of an ancestor, so the kid of other ancestors, he was an accuser, and his accusations resulted in a hanging. So that guy's not cool. Glad he's not a direct ancestor. But my family history is all tied up in this stuff. And I did a real deep dive research on it. And anyway, everyone's got a cool history. That was just some stuff I found out. Interesting. Here's a Huckleberry Finn attributed to Samuel Clemens. Curious. But it's a beautiful looking edition. Fun fact, this is one of my historical blind spots. I've read books that are partly about Huckleberry Finn, but I don't think I've ever read Huckleberry Finn. I've seen movies, read criticisms, I'm very familiar with the story, but it's one of my big great American blind spots for American literature. But there's a copy of it on the paperback shelves, so I will read it eventually. I was just thinking, you say on the shelves and in the bookcase. Interesting. Larry McMurtry, The Last Picture Show. There's a good movie of this. Pretty good. Reminded me of a lot of New Mexico towns, too. Thought, I want to read that, too. Larry McMurtry is a really interesting writer because he hangs out in genre a lot, but he obviously brings a lot to it. Lonesome Dove. He's very layered, but he doesn't have the reputation of like Cormac McCarthy. There must be some line that he's just on the other side of or something. Cormac McCarthy's on another side of it. on the spectrum between literary and genre. I don't know. Ugh. These books are incredible, especially Jealousy. Jealousy is my favorite. Jealousy is the one in here I've reread and reread. In the Labyrinth, I maybe read once. Twice. Look at that. I doubt that fiction as art can any longer be seriously discussed without Robbe-Grillet. Yeah, he's so experimental and awesome. Jealousy has like a 2-page description of someone brushing their hair, and I wish it was 10 pages. It's so great. Robbe-Grillet is such a maximalist in such contained spaces, and I relate to that. I always think of myself as a maximalist in structure and a minimalist, on a sentence level. Keep it lean. But Robbe-Grillet is a great example of all that too. He's so cool. There's a scene where he describes almost every tree in a little forest. He'll describe a room so thoroughly that if he doesn't describe a corner, you're like, why didn't you describe that corner? What's in that corner? Jealousy is a technical masterpiece, impeccably contrived. And he also does this thing where it's a book in first person. It's a book in first person, but he doesn't use any first person pronouns like I, me, mine, etc. And so you don't notice that the text is getting increasingly hostile toward one of the characters, jealous, resentful, etc. And it's great. I mean, the way that he skirts around using pronouns is really fascinating. Like he says, and now it is time for dinner. There are 3 plates, and then he only describes 2 of them, and who's sitting at the 2. So it's like, who's at the 3rd? Oh, I guess you're okay. It's a really strange way to tell a story, and it is stayed with me. Someone gave this to me in 2001. A woman I was with at the time, and she was like, I read this in a college class and I thought you would love it. And yep, it was like, it turned out to be one of the most, it was so much weirder than anything I was reading at the time, and it blew my mind and made me all about the French New Wave and Robbe-Grillet for a long time. He is great. Jealousy is a masterpiece. This is not the only copy kicking around here. In fact, there's one on the paperback shelf that we'll get to. I love high concept approaches, and you find that often in fiction. Disappointingly, not as much in nonfiction. I'm like, do it more. But this is such a cool book. Then we came to the end, in that it's written in first person plural, in the we voice, the collective voice. And it's about an office, and it's like this crazy amoeba-like collective that moves through stairwells and office floors, and it's fantastic. Love this book. There is one weird detail that bugs me, and I'm like, it keeps talking about somebody getting a totem pole in Arizona, and I'm like, you're so stupid, whoever wrote this. Do some freaking research. Sorry, no, you're not stupid, Joshua Ferris, but like, that's the thing, is I couldn't tell if it was supposed to be just a character or if it was the author genuinely being ignorant about that. And I like did a bunch of research, like, are there totem poles in Arizona? But it kind of took me out of it. Shoot, I shouldn't have said this. I didn't want to be real negative on this channel. The internet is. I love this book. I've bought and rebought this book and given it away many times. And I have another book from Joshua Ferris. But I did hate that totem pole thing. Sometimes the detail just stands out like that. Like when James Fry described a beaver as a fat otter with a flat tail in a million little pieces. I was like, oh man, how did this get by editors? This doesn't fit the sure unreliable narrator you've established, and yet, anyway, that's a different book. Rick Bass is such an important, special writer. Like, the guy just gets so much right. He is a master of tone and emotion, and this is a great collection of stories. So is The Lives of Rocks. He's a fantastic writer. But the story in here, the Hermit story, has really had a big role in my life. I love it. It's about people finding a lake frozen in the winter that the ice has stayed, but the water has drained out, and they go underneath it. And it's, comparable to The Secret Share and some of its themes. about descending into a deeper self, but it's also about the writing process and the reading process. It's about 6,000 words or so, I think, but I retyped it once and then wrote an experimental essay where I replaced every word of that story with nonfiction words about a totally different experience from where I was, but tried to like stick to its themes and structure. Same number of paragraphs and everything. I wrote a piece called The Instructor's Story. And anyway, I feel very connected to this. Someone's calling me. I guess I'll end the video there.